Well, unless you've been living under a rock, you'll have heard about the latest Sarah Ferguson shenanigans. And we're not going to talk about that because every news outlet in the country's covered it. But what I'm doing it from, again, is the angle that people feather their nest. And these charities took on Sarah Ferguson as their ambassador or patron or whatever you want to call it, but had connections with her. She'd already been found out by the News of the World in a sting where she showed offering to sell access to the Duke of York for £500,000. So you wouldn't, with somebody with that background, who would want them as a patron, that, you know, with a reputation like that? And that's been factually proved. But we can sort of forget about that little misdemeanour because she is connected to the royal family and has got the title of Duchess. But now that the public are starting to know and these emails have coming out, you know, the SHIT's hit the fan and we're going to back out and drop her. So in 2008, Epstein pleaded guilty in a Florida state court to one count of soliciting prostitution and one count of soliciting prostitution for a minor under 18. Speaking to the Evening Standard in March 2011, Ferguson admitted her involvement with Epstein, and she said that it had been a gigantic error of judgment. Now, this was 3 years after he had been prosecuted and jailed, right? So she gave the remarks because there had been criticism over the links she and Prince Andrew had had with Epstein and the revelation she had allowed the financier to provide her £15,000 to help pay off her debts. So said, I cannot state more strongly that I know a terrible, terrible error of judgment was made. My having anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein, what he did was wrong and for which he was rightly jailed. And she said that, you know, she is so against paedophilia and sexual abuse of children. As you now know, because it's been covered just by about every major news channel, is that there was actually then an email to him. And this is, I haven't seen the emails. If anybody's seen them, I've Googled it like mad, but you can't seem to find the actual emails. If anybody's seen them, please tell me. But this is what it's supposed to have said. I was advised in no uncertain terms to have nothing to do with you and not to speak or email you. And if I would cause more problems to you, Prince Andrew and myself, she continued. I was instructed to act with the utmost speed if I would have any chance of holding on to my career as a children's book author and a children's philanthropist. And she said in a statement to The Guardian, a representative for Ferguson said she stood by her public condemnation of Epstein. And she put, like many people, she was taken in by Epstein's lies. As soon as she was aware of the extent of the allegations against him, she not only cut off contact but condemned him publicly, to the extent that he then threatened to sue her for defamation for associating with paedophilia. She does not resile from anything she said. Then this email was sent in the context of advice the Duchess was given to try to assuage Epstein and his threats. She then goes on to say in the email, as you know, I did not, absolutely not, say the P word about you. Understand, it was reported that I did. I know you feel hellishly let down by me. You have always been a steadfast, generous and supreme friend to me and my family. But now she's saying that the email was sent to counter a threat Epstein had made to sue her for defamation. And she said the spokesman for the Duchess said the email was sent after Epstein had threatened to sue her for defamation in an effort to convince him not to. Now, there's obviously multiple things about this. And one is, and this is why I say that it's witnesses in child sexual abuse cases and maybe other cases, that's obviously the angle that I'm going from because we were failed on that case. If it feathers their nest, which I've said about many times, they will lie, and this proves it here. So instead of coming out with the truth, she's spoken out of it and she's turned around and said how against paedophilia she is, how she's not going to have ties with Jeffrey Epstein. But when apparently he then threatens to take money, defamation, to sue her for defamation, to take money off her, she changes her mind because it doesn't feather her nest to stand against him. She's got to change her mind. So therefore, she's not a credible witness. But could you imagine if you were in court and you had a duchess come in and give evidence, the court would think, oh, well, you know, it's a duchess, you know, here we go. They will believe a duchess over, you know, the common people like us. And this is what I'm saying, that people change even when it's paedophilia, even when children have been abused, they will change if it feathers a nest. And this proves it exactly. Because, as I say, she's written herself, she was instructed to act with the utmost speed to have any chance of holding on to her career as a children's book author and children's philanthropist. And that look at that, it's absolutely disgusting. The very people she's going on, children's philanthropist, are probably the very people that are coming to these charities that have been sexually abused. And so she'll put on this forefront that she cares and everything, but actually, when it started affecting her, she backtracked like mad and tried to cover herself, to protect herself. And she was the person that could have sorted this because she was a big public figure. She still is obviously a big public figure. She could have spoken out about it, but instead she chose the weak option, and she wrote to him to try and get out of this defamation case. But let's get on to that defamation case. Something here doesn't add up, because defamation is the publication of a false statement that harms a person or business reputation, causing serious harm to them. So it has to be that you've put something out on the internet that is a lie, that is untrue about that person. But her turning around and said that he'd been charged and prosecuted and jailed for it. So what she was saying wasn't out of term. If she'd have said that, she denies saying it. He says she says it. But even if she'd said it, it's true. So it's a true fact. So it therefore can't be defamation. So I'm sure there'll be more about it coming out in the future, days, hours, maybe weeks, whatever, and find out what was the real reason why she was sending these grovelling emails to him. Because in my personal view, I don't believe it could be defamation, because, as I say, he did it. So therefore she's not lying. And it was, in papers had obviously publicly said that he was going to jail. He'd been prosecuted for this thing, so it's not defamation. So we'll see what comes out in the future, but it just proves to us this, that witnesses cannot be relied on. I'm not saying obviously every witness goes to court and lies, of course they're not, but how do the judge know that? How do the jury know that how plausible these people are? They're thinking, if they got a bit of money from whoever it was that is getting charged, or they're owed something by whoever is getting charged, they cannot be credible witnesses. And this is why these character witnesses that come to court should be stopped, because they can always be feather in their own nest. Thank you very much for watching, and the next video will be coming out soon.